Overseas, a new series of arrests in Hong Kong is adding to concerns that governments are using coronavirus fears to crack down on human rights.
Move! 15 of Hong Kong's pro-democracy leaders were arrested in a single day.
China wants to crush this pro-democracy movement. The arrival of coronavirus was an authoritarian's dream.
There's just crazy scenes here in central Hong Kong. Everyone's running.
As the weeks turn into months, I've been thinking a lot about the mandatory lockdown that most of the world is going through. I found it somewhat funny to see my traditionally unhealthy lifestyle choices, such as avoiding other people and the outside world at all costs, become the socially acceptable and responsible way of living our lives. I do realize that not everyone has the hermit gene like I do. Human interaction is very important, and when that gets taken away from us, we look to any other way of communicating with one another. And as I've mentioned in previous videos, gaming is a way that many people, including myself, enjoy socializing.
Hey, you're a fucking retard.
No,
Shut up.
As someone who lives in the United States, and most of us who live in the free world, that's a luxury that is often taken for granted. Now, I'm not blaming anyone for that. For most sane individuals, playing games with friends is not something that you would think would need harsh restrictions or stringent regulations. Unless, of course, you live in China. Or maybe Australia. But no, we're not here to talk about our brothers and sisters from down under. Join me in today's video where we take a look at the brutal communist regime in China and why they've recently decided to ban online gaming, as well as placing heavy restrictions on single-player games. Restrictions that may even affect companies that seem to love the communist Chinese government. Most of the information in today's video came from an article written by Anthony Gareffa. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Anthony is a writer over at Tweaktown. A link will be in the description below. I highly recommend checking out the article for yourself. Most of you already know that China isn't known for their love of things like, I don't know, freedom of speech, democracy, animal rights, or hell, even human rights for that matter. No, their interests lie more in the area of kidnapping and murdering anyone who dares oppose their authoritarian regime, lest we forget the Hong Kong protesters fighting for their sovereignty from the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. But more on that in a bit. Winnie Xi Jinping Poo is the communist dictator of China. Oh, sorry. He's the communist president of China. Pooh Bear is no ordinary bear, though. He is, well, he's not well. He's been eating some of that mad honey. Xi has a history of doing some pretty insane things. To start off with, he banned a letter. Yes, you heard that correctly. He banned a letter from the alphabet. For fuck's sake, give him a few more years, and he might be banning entire words or phrases.
Why waste time? Say lot word when few word do trick.
Not only does this fucking moron not believe in certain letters, he also hates cartoon characters. Xi has banned South Park for having the audacity to mock him and point out that their country, more specifically the Chinese Communist government, loves to imprison any wrong-thinking citizens or any perceived slight to the government of China. Sounds a lot like what social justice warriors would like to see happen here in America. I guess that's why most SJWs are socialists and communists. I mean, they're really authoritarians at heart, am I right? South Park was not the only cartoon that would feel the wrath of Ping Pooh. Oh no, Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh has also been banned in China, as she does not like the comparison of him and everyone's favorite yellow bear, but I mean, fucking look at this. They're like long-lost brothers, for God's sakes. Now, of course, this is all funny, but it's important to remember that Xi Jinping is one of the world's most unstable and ferociously violent, delusional creatures to ever spawn on this earth. He leads a government so morally bankrupt and vile, a regime that will kidnap or kill, possibly both, any and all that oppose its will. The citizens of China are being monitored every single day, being spied on by their government all throughout their daily lives. They are constantly being surveilled both in their real lives as well as in their online interactions. This is to make sure that the Chinese government can control the information that its people are getting and receiving. They want to ensure that no one is speaking out against their God Emperor Winnie the Pooh. Unfortunately for the gamers in China, Xi and his communist regime have set their sights on gaming as they feel that it's a threat to their absolute power. Recently, China has introduced new restrictions to their already draconian laws when it comes to what the CCP deems acceptable to be put in games that are going to be sold in China. The new regulations come after the release of a very provocative and deeply disturbing game. I don't know if you're ready for this one, folks, so buckle up. A game that is so dangerous, so utterly provocative, that if not banned, it could literally see the moral fiber of China erode until people are slaughtering animals in tiny cages stacked up on top of one another, with no regard for human health or human safety. Wait, what? What's it? That's already happening? Oh, fuck. What game could it be? Did Rockstar sneak out a new Manhunt game? Is Leisure Suit Larry making a comeback? Let's see what game it is, shall we? Drum roll, please. But Mando, I hear you say. Why would the Chinese government ban Animal Crossing? What could possibly be so frightening in a game where you go fishing with cuddly little creatures? Well, viewer, China is on some next level shit. There was a player who used the in-game customization options to show support for the protests in Hong Kong, and I have to say, it's beautiful. You love to see it. You all remember those protesters in Hong Kong, don't you? Protesting against the communist Chinese government, fighting for their rights and their sovereignty. I know the higher-ups at Blizzard are wishing that you'd forget, but more on that later. After this photo went viral and the commie Chinese government got their grubby little hands on it, they declared that video games are a, quote, authority vacuum and are clearly something that needs to be surveilled even more heavily as they could threaten national security. I mean, who knows what these fuzzy little fuckers are telling you in Animal Crossing? They could be speaking heresy. The CCP has now enforced extreme conditions for online gaming. They will no longer be allowing Chinese citizens to play games with online access with those outside of China. This is effectively locking off Chinese gamers from the rest of the world. Now, this is incredibly concerning, as the CCP not only controls the information that is coming in and leaving China via the internet, but now they're limiting the people that the Chinese gamers can interact with. This is obviously being done so that there's a lower risk of Chinese players coming across Americans or other democratic nation players who would call into question the Chinese regime's ethics and practices. Not only will the CCP be limiting who players will be interacting with, but they'll also be limiting the amount of time that games can be played. If you're a gamer in China who's 18 or younger, you're going to be restricted to playing games from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. China has a population of gamers that's roughly 500 million, and about 23% of that are gamers that are 18 and younger. This means that China is looking to control about 115 million young adults' information and media consumption, as well as their online interactions. On top of all of this, the CCP will also be limiting the amount of money that can be spent on in-game purchases, and both of these are being said to cut back on online addictions. But in reality, this is something much more sinister. It's in the communist government's best interest to control the information flow as much as possible. This is especially true for younger people as they're more susceptible to information, and depending on how young we're talking here, they're less likely to question their elders and authority figures. I mean, fuck, especially authority figures in China when you can see how brutal they are. Along with the aforementioned restrictions, the CCP will also be stepping up their surveillance of online gaming activities for that extra pinch of tyranny. The CCP really needs to keep an eye on those pesky gamers trying to send messages in bottles to those free countries. Can't have them signaling for help now, can we? It was not just online gaming that earned itself some nifty new restrictions courtesy of the commies. Single-player games will now have new restrictions, and some of them seem like they have to do with a certain virus going around these days. A virus that the Chinese government doesn't want to acknowledge that came from their country. Here's a list of things that will no longer be allowed in games being sold in China. Zombies, plagues, map editing, role-playing, and organizing unions or a clan.
Let's talk about Chinese people with their kung fu and all that silly chang chang chong chong. White power!
I mean, come on guys. I know a biolab research center in Wuhan happens to have an eerily similar logo to that of the Umbrella Corporation, but don't you think banning zombies and plagues in games is a little excessive? It's not like the Wu flu is creating zombies. No, that's going to be the next virus to come out of China in about 8 years. Map editing and role-playing are clearly direct responses to Animal Crossing. I mean, I can just picture it now. People recreating Tiananmen Square and Hong Kong protest models in Minecraft. Can we make that happen, please? Can we get that going? I also find it funny that a communist country who's supposedly led by the people for the people bans something that allows them to come together and organize for their rights. Irony, thy name is Pooh Bear. I feel like most Americans would empathize with the Chinese people's struggles. After all, we got our start from liberating ourselves from a country whose overlords are a frail, decrepit handbag and a baby. Unfortunately, though, Blizzard has to be here to shit in everyone's cornflakes. You see, Blizzard and companies like them, Disney, seem content with supporting a communist regime. Back in October of last year, Blizzard banned a professional Hearthstone player after he donned a similar gas mask to that worn by protesters in Hong Kong, and he said on air, "Liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our time." Now, not only did Blizzard ban Blitzchung, they also stripped him of all of his prize money. This was all done in order to save face and not upset their Chinese overlords. You see, Tencent is a major investing partner in Blizzard, and for those who don't know who Tencent is the company who invented and implemented China's social credit system, where citizens are surveilled on a daily basis. The citizens of China are constantly being watched and listened to, as well as having their online behavior monitored. The way the system works is that if a citizen is considered to be doing something that the government deems inappropriate, such as searching for forbidden things online, speaking ill towards the government, etc., it's going to lower their social credit score. Their social credit score is what allows them access to live in certain areas, apply and have certain jobs, and go to certain schools. Tencent has a lot of money. A lot. That's an understatement. They have a shitload of money. Money that companies like Blizzard, Epic Games, and Disney, and countless more, want in their pockets year over year. If Blizzard did not ban Blitzchung, they would have seen a huge backlash. Wait, I said that wrong. They would have seen a huge backlash from China. The CCP would have likely pulled all of Blizzard's games from store shelves, as well as not allow the sales of their games in China. This would cost Blizzard hundreds of millions of dollars every single year. In fact, Blizzard was so concerned by this that they released a statement on their official Hearthstone Twitter account stating the following: "We are very angered and disappointed at what happened at the event last week, and highly object the expression of personal political beliefs in any of our events. As always, we will defend the pride and dignity of China at all costs." The reason I point this out is to not say you shouldn't play or buy Blizzard games. I wouldn't presume to tell you what to do with your time or your money, but the blatant hypocrisy of companies like Blizzard, Epic Games, and Disney is beyond laughable. Blizzard, A company who fancies themselves a company that cares about people, cares about gay rights and equality, but has zero issue with ignoring human suffering that's occurring in China. People are being beaten, raped, kidnapped, and murdered by their own government, but it's okay because they're getting big money from Tencent. But forget about that. Pay no attention to that. Look, J. Allen Brack, the president of Blizzard, is wearing a gay pride pin. How progressive. Sadly, I don't see these restrictions being lifted anytime soon for gamers in China. As with most governments, especially the communist authoritarian ones, they are always seeking for more and more control, more power, until they are the only source for things like food, information, entertainment, you name it. The government wants to supply it all. It's just as unfortunate that we have American companies who are willfully turning a blind eye to the blatant human rights abuses going on in China and countries like it just so they can make a few extra dollars while they virtue signal to the rest of the world like they're some champion of the people. In reality, their virtue signaling means nothing. Their words and their actions are shallow and hollow platitudes, meant only to appease the simple-minded, surface-level social justice warriors who would rather complain that Tifa's tits are too big or her midriff is showing too much skin rather than opening their fucking eyes to see the oppression of hundreds of millions of people. You might think that this doesn't affect you if you don't live in China, but it certainly can. Just look at films being made and how they cater to China. We have the Transformers films where entire portions of the movie were shot in China just to rev up those Chinese moviegoers. And more recently, we have Mulan, where Disney is desperately seeking Pooh Bear's attention. Notice me, senpai, please. Buy the games that you want to buy, play the games that you want to play, and support the companies who put out products that you enjoy, but do not forget who those companies may be serving. In this case, they are serving a disgustingly intrusive, violent, and unforgiving communist government. And that does it for today's video. I planned on doing a video all about Blizzard and their connections with China, and after doing this video, I might still come out with it. If that's something that you want to see, let me know down in the comments below. And as always, I want to know what you think about all of this. Drop your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you like the video, hit the like button, and if you really want to support my channel, hit subscribe. Don't forget to share this video on social media, and while you're at it, follow me on Twitter at Metal Gear Mando. Until next time, I will see you in the next video.